I think you're probably wondering why I'm wearing this black and gold tie. It is true that I went to West Point and the colors of West Point are black and gold, but no, I'm wearing it in honor of our guest of honor today, Mr. Rocky Bleier. Rocky is a true American hero, as all of you know. Let me tell you, I love your jersey, except it should have been number 20.
Yeah, but that's all right.
That's okay. In 1968, Rocky was running back on Notre Dame's national championship team. In January of 1968, Rocky was drafted for the very first time by the Pittsburgh Steelers. 4 months later, in June of 1968, Rocky graduated from Notre Dame. 6 months later, in December of 1968, Rocky was drafted again, but this time by the U.S. Army.
That's right.
5 months later, he was in Vietnam. 5 months later, in Vietnam. He was a member of the 196th Light Infantry Brigade of the Americal Division. And less than 3 months later, he was wounded in action south of Da Nang. Shot in the thigh and with the right foot and right knee damaged by an explosion of a grenade. Debilitating injuries. The doctors said Rocky would never play football again, maybe never even walk again. But in 1974, after putting himself through an absolutely brutal regime to get ready, he put number 20 on his back as a Pittsburgh Steeler. And what can I say, at 28 years old, and then he went on to win 4 Super Bowls. A remarkable story. Let me stop there and introduce my buddy, Rocky Bleier.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and it's a pleasure to be able to be here, in all honesty. And when the Secretary asked me if I'd come and speak to his people, I said, oh yeah, I'd love to have that chance to be able to do that. But I also forgot the fact is that to really brief the Secretary on introductions, because I always, being a former CEO, I know that he is well prepared. And as a Secretary, he's well prepared. Sometimes as an introduction, he's too well prepared, which means that I have nothing to talk about. Because I've made my living telling that story. Now he's told you, and so the surprise is over with. And but I'm happy to be here for all that you do here at the VA, and in the VA's become and I don't say this. I really say this with great meaning, is the VA has been a big part of my life, and we do a lot for the VA. I'm in the construction business, just to give you a little background as well, and because of my service and because of the fact that they came out with a program for service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, we have an opportunity to give back to the VA, and we get a chance to bid on a lot of projects. That's not why I'm here, but we've worked in Western Pennsylvania with all the VAs, and so I appreciate what goes on within the system and the obstacles that you have to face every day because of the mass amount of people that you take care of. And so it doesn't go unnoticed from our behalf as a veteran, as well as a contractor, as well as a service person. But I also understand this, is that not everybody here in Washington are Steeler fans. So I understand that. I just want to let you, and given that, a lot of you just may not know the history of Pittsburgh and that impact that it has. So, thank you very much. I'll have my supporters here. So let me put things into perspective as best I possibly can, and that is this. In a book I recently read, which paraphrased my point, is that the author wrote in this book, called River Horse, the author wrote this, that our physical components change every 7 years, so that our brains continuously pass memories off onto a complete stranger. Who we have been is just now a fellow ghostly traveler. If memory were total and complete, perhaps we would be one person from start to finish, but forgetfulness cuts us off from who we have been so that hourly we are reborn. Now, I tell you that in context because I am just now starting my 8th decade of creating memories. And although I may not be the same person I was 45 years ago when I was walking in the rice paddies in Vietnam, or 35 years ago when I last wore a uniform in the National Football League, but the highlights of my life and my career, like the highlights of each and every one of our lives, are forever etched in our memories. What I've come to learn is it's not that I have forgotten who I am or what had been accomplished. It's usually my audience that has forgotten who I am and how I single-handedly won those 4 Super Bowls for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But playing with that team during that period of time was a wonderful opportunity. And it just reminds me of the fact that we live in a culture of opportunity and not necessarily a culture of entitlement. And that's based on the simple premise that as long as we have choices within our lives of what we want to do, then basically we are a free people. But with choice comes a responsibility. And that responsibility is, one, to be informed, to know more about what has taken place within our society, within an organization, within our country, and secondly, then having the courage to act on that information. So if we have choices, then basically we have 2 choices. One is to be less than we're capable of being, to do less, to be less involved, or secondly, to do more. So if we have choices, then basically we really only have one choice, and that is to be the best that we can be. But it raises for me a myriad of questions, such as why in our society as we look around? Why is it that some people succeed within their quest when others seem to fail? Why in the world of sports do some teams consistently win when others seem to lose? What then are those ingredients that allow us individually and thus collectively to reach that potential? Well, to answer that question, I'd like to tell you a story, although it would be, my story, but I'd like you to at least listen to it from the point of view that we all have a story. We all have a story of how we got to where we are today. Obviously, the roads that we have taken to get to this point in our lives have varied and different, but the experiences are pretty much the same. The ups, the downs, the successes, the failures, the barriers that we all face. Now, most of my life has been involved in the world of football on one level or another. And even though it's been my life and my focus and my passion, I've also come to realize that I do share this world with some people who could care less about what is happening on the football field. And some of those people may be sitting right out here this afternoon. But whether or not, let's be honest, whether or not you like the game of football, you at least have to admit to yourselves that it has become part of the fabric of our lives. It is now on television, whether it be junior high, high school, college, or the pros, 24 hours a day. It's in our local papers, radios, talk shows. It becomes the topic of conversation within our homes and within the workplace. Some of us have played the game. Friends have played the game. Family has played the game. Our kids have played the game. And football is much like life, if I can make that analogy. And why is that? Well, think about it. In the game, there is a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. There's birth, there's life, there's death. And depending on how your team has performed, there may be a mourning period. And then there's a renewal. And we'll repeat those year after year, time after time. That same process that goes through. And it creates one word, football does, much like life. And that one word is hope. God, I hope they get it together next year. I hope we can sign Cousins. You know, I hope that we have the right players. Hope we have the right coach. Hope nobody gets hurt. You know, I hope we can win. I hope we have a great draft. I hope we can get into the division. Hope we can win the championship game. And ultimately, we hope that our team gets to the Super Bowl. And even if our team doesn't get to the Super Bowl, we hope the team we like the least beats the team we hate the most. And, you know, I was very fortunate, obviously, as the Secretary had made mention, to play with a team that today now allows me to wear 4 Super Bowl rings, from Super Bowls 9, Super Bowls 10, Super Bowls 13, Super Bowls 14. Do you know how many Steeler fans it takes to change a light bulb? Don't hurt yourself. The answer is 5. 1 to change a light bulb, obviously. The other 4 to talk about how great the 70s were. Anyway, from 74 and 5 and 8 and 9, 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, 2 against the Dallas Cowboys, and the 4th against the then LA Rams. But you also have to understand that having 4 Super Bowl rings poses a lot of problems to me. Because no matter where I may go, it raises a myriad of questions. Much like I got at lunch today from the secretary. Geez, Rocky said, I mean, you do have 4 Super Bowl rings. Do you change them every day? I mean, how do you decide which one to wear? I mean, which one's better than the other one? Which one do you like more than the other one? Well, I have to tell you in all honesty that this one that I wear on my right hand from Super Bowl 13, the second time that we had played the Dallas Cowboys, is the one that I wear all the time. And for various reasons, which I won't necessarily bore you with, but the primary reason is because it happens to be the largest and gaudiest of all 4 of them. But you have to understand that every time that I wear these rings, I mean, for me, these rings truly are a symbol, and they're important if you think about it, as all symbols in our lives are important, because they're really constant reminders of the successes that we've had, failures we've experienced, depths that we prevailed, heights we've achieved, of the constant barriers that we'd overcome to be able to get there. A constant reminder that becoming the best, or becoming number 1, or winning the championship, or ultimately winning that Super Bowl just doesn't happen. But yet, if you think about it, it takes all those ingredients that we've come to learn in our lives, no matter where we are, what we do. I mean, it takes hard work and dedication, and it takes a commitment, and it takes a passion, all shoved into a capsule that today we call a team. It takes leadership, people, vision, and a belief system. And how many definitions of that word team have we heard over the years? How about that acronym, T-E-A-M, together, everyone achieves more. How many times have we heard that? How many times have we used that? Well, probably the best definition I heard came from our head coach all those many years ago in Pittsburgh, Chuck Noll, who defined a team simply as this: a group of individuals coming together for a common purpose and a common goal. And along the way, we have our own responsibilities. Game of football as an example. Common purpose, what? Play the game. Common goal, to win. Responsibilities, head coach, coaching staff. Get the right players. Put them in the right position. Train them. And then ultimately arm them with the best offense and defensive game plans. Players' responsibility. Take the game plans, whether you like them or not, and execute them to the best of your ability. So that when you walk off that field and you come into the locker room and you got that one moment where you look at yourself in the mirror and you can honestly say, I did everything I could according to this plan. Because if each and everybody says that, then all the parts will come together as a whole, and that whole truly will be a victory. Individuals come together for a common purpose and a common goal. So successful teams, like successful organizations, are really made up of two parts. The commitment of the individuals to their own responsibilities and to that of the organization, and thus the commitment of the organization in support of the individuals to achieve their goals. Two parts held together by a common glue called commitment and trust. For without that glue, obviously, it will not adhere. For without that glue, those two sides will fall apart. Excuse me. I'm the only one that forgot to turn it off. So the one business that you have to understand that we are in, no matter what we may do, but the one business that you in the VA are really in, is that we're really in the hope business. Because no man is an island. If you think about it in those contexts, we didn't get to where we are today by ourselves. We got here because of someone, something. We got here because of an opportunity, an open door. We got here because of a teacher, a coach, a mentor, a parent, somebody that gave us a shove, a kick, opened a door. We got here because somebody took an interest and cared. And all our lives are built on hope. That you have to understand, that little kernel of belief that we have within ourselves that we can accomplish something. And it has to start somewhere, that kernel. And mine, I have to tell you in all honesty, you may not believe this, started with the greatest football game I ever played in. I was 9 years old. I was playing Dickie Weisgerber, my next door neighbor. See, being born and raised in a small Midwestern town, Appleton, Wisconsin. See, for us cheeseheads, football was a big part of our lives. And Dickie and I had an extensive schedule. We did have home and away games. Now, that first game of the season was an away game for me, so of course, I had to go across the street, pick up Dickie and play in his sideline. But let me tell you, what a game. What a game. I scored 51 touchdowns that afternoon. Thank you very much. I shut him out. The sucker didn't score. Oh, God, I knew I had his number. When it was the beginning for me of that feeling of success. Now, just because the fat Dickie was 5 shouldn't take anything away from him. He was a big 5. He was a tough kid. You don't know Dickie. But I grew up across the street, as I had made mention from Dickie. I grew up in a bar, neighborhood, shot in a beer joint. And I met a lot of great people that walked through those doors and sat across those stools from my father. But like a lot of us, I also met a lot of would'ves and could'ves and should'ves. Oh, Rock, I could have played. blew my knee out in second grade. Just never responded. Should have played or would have played. And there's always reasons why that sometimes those childhood dreams didn't come to fruition. But hopefully what we've been able to do is learn from those experiences and use them as a stepping stone to propel us in a new and different direction. And I tell you that only because Dickie was never a would have, could have, should have guy. The last time I saw him, we had a reunion, high school reunion. And the first thing Dickie would say, the first thing he said, and it wasn't like, hey, geez, you really look good, or how's the family? No, he said, I'm going to beat you someday. Now, we may be in wheelchairs, walkers, or whatever it is. He said, but we got a game ahead of us. And I thought how wonderful it was, only because he never gave up those dreams or those visions of what we can become. And one of the things that I had learned, because Dickie never did give up, but one of the things I learned was that there was always a catalyst in playing sports specifically, but even in school, that molded together individuals. And because it was the success of the unit or success of the team, you got recognized for your contribution to that team. And because of that, I got a chance to continue my education and got a scholarship to go to the University of Notre Dame to play football. Now, one of the things Dickie and I did share was a perception of being too small, too short, too slow, and not big enough to play a game of football, no matter what level it may be. I then continued that, even going to the University of Notre Dame. And we had a brand new coach, a guy by the name of Eric Parsegian, who came in at that time. And so this was the first time I got a chance to meet him. In that experience, I have to tell you, when something like this, the first time we met, he came through the doorway with a smile on his face and a lot of energy, and it was like, you know, the leprechaun tryouts are in the other building. You might be in the wrong place. He said, you're not. Oh, but I am. Oh, don't tell me that. Why not? He said, because of the fact, he said, look at you. He said, you're not big enough. You're not fast enough. You'll never be able to compete on this level. A preconceived idea. And it's really up to us to be able to change that perception. And you do it the way that the only way we know how. And that is not giving up through hard work, dedication, commitment. And by the time my junior year came along, I was in the starting backfield, and we won a national championship. In my senior year, I became captain of the team. Recognized enough to be drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now you have to understand, just to put things in context, I was not their first choice. I did not make their top 10 list. I was the 417th person picked in the draft that year. I was the 16th round draft choice. But you have to understand this, from my point of view, there were 17 rounds. Hey, at least I'm not the last guy picked. I might have a chance to be able to make this team. People said, well, how'd you make the team back then? Do you remember who played for the Steelers in the 60s? That's how come I made the team. Because nobody can remember, and I played 11 of 12 games, as the story goes, or 14 games that season, and I was in a locker room getting ready to go to practice when all of a sudden our equipment man hollered, hey, Rock, there's a letter over here for you. Now, every locker room is the same, no matter where. Even today, there is some place, a table, whatever it might be, where all the fan mail is dumped. Now, when you're the 417th person picked in the draft, it was a place I'd never visited. From that first day of training camp all the way through that, the 11th game of the season, my mother, God rest her soul, never even sent me a letter. But here it was, my first piece of fan mail. I don't know how I crossed the room, but all of a sudden there it was, that table in front of me, and I saw it, my name. It was almost pulsating. And I picked it up, and I opened it up, and gingerly pulled out that piece of paper, and it said, greetings. We'd like to inform you that you've been inducted into the armed services of your country. And it was my draft notification, and within 24 hours, I was gone. Went to basic training, advanced infantry training, flew home, said hi, goodbye, found myself in San Francisco, boarding a plane, flew the Pacific and led in South Vietnam, like thousands of other young men throughout that period of time. In country now, 3.5 months, 4 months. We're on patrol. Our mission was to go back and retrieve bodies that we had left behind 2 days earlier. We'd flown out to get a sister company out of an ambush hotspot situation. We got there late at night, on the way out, pulling front and rear security, get them out of the hotspot. We ran into an ambush. Leave the bodies, we'll be back 2 days later. Get ourselves out. Now we are. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. Been humping the hill since the break of dawn. Temperature was rising about 102, 103 degrees. Humidity was about 86%. Sweat was rolling off our body. Finally found our location. Word was to move out. I was 8th in line. I was carrying a grenade launcher. Word was to keep 5 yards distance between one another. Keep your eyes and your ears open because, hey, as we well know, the enemy is around. I stepped out of that open rice paddy, and our point man, who now may be 40 yards in front of me, hollered, "Gook, gook," and boy, shots broke the stillness. And we started to race down the middle of that rice paddy when the machine guns started to level the area. Bodies were diving left and right into those rice paddies. It seemed I went left, everybody else went right, and saw the machine gun nestled in the bushes. About 75 meters away, rolled over my side, breached that grenade. When all of a sudden I felt a thud in my left leg, and I was hit for the first time, and discharged my round and got behind some protection. 4 guys were pinned down in front of us, put enough firepower on that position to get them out. And all of a sudden, there was a lull in the action. Now, after all these many years, the one question that is most asked of me today wasn't about playing in a national championship game or what it was like playing in a Super Bowl, and especially in the wee hours of the morning when a lot of inhibitions kind of wane. The question is asked is, what is it like to be in combat? Because there's no reference to that experience. Now, we have reference, obviously, to playing sports because we play it. Backyard pickup games all the way through, so we can have an idea of what it might be playing on the college level or on a professional level. But there's really no true reference to what is it like being in combat. And the reason is because what? As you well know, statistic-wise, 1% of our population serves this country. A little more than 1% of that population may find themselves in combat. So there isn't any reference point. I think to myself, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, when asked that question, obviously, that person who asked me that question never had a Catholic education. See, with 8 years of Notre Dame nuns, 4 years of Christian brothers, 4 years of Holy Cross priests, I knew what combat was all about. Because there's nothing more fearful, if you've never gone through that experience, of having a good sister with a ruler in her hand and righteousness in her eyes, looking right at you going down that aisle. But all of a sudden, in this lull that had taken place, and I have to tell you in all honesty, and I don't know where she came from, but in that battlefield and in that rice paddy, my 6th grade teacher, Sister Hilaire, made a presence. She was right there, reminding me of all the stories that had been told about those soldiers in World War II and Korea that when found in that same position or situation in a foxhole would make a commitment. That's how some of them became priests. And I thought, that's where I'm starting my bidding right there. but ultimately I knew I was going to become a priest at that moment in time. So you say, what can I do? Because we need to get out of that situation. And we've all been in it at one time or another. Well, if you get me out, I guess the best bet is that what you have, and the only thing that we are allowed to give is ourselves. So what you have is me. You know, I'll enjoy the good times and not complain about the bad times, and kind of the best I could do. Well, all of a sudden the medic came over and he and I crawled back to our commanding officer. We set up another defensive position. 20 minutes later, the rest of the platoon came crawling in on their hands and knees filled with mud and muck from those rice paddies. The enemy probed our perimeter close enough to be able to get a hand grenade into the area and hit my commanding officer on the back, and it didn't go off, but it bounded towards where I was. In a matter of seconds, I jumped, getting out of the way, and I was standing on top of it, and it blew up through my right foot, right knee, and right thigh, and my first thought was, you know, I made the commitment earlier. Gee, I mean, you didn't have to remind me. When a sister platoon finally fought its way down and dragged us out of there, we got to security area, got to helicopter, went to an aid station, and I flew to Da Nang before I flew to Tokyo, where I spent 3 weeks in the hospital, and came back to the States, where I spent 9 months in the hospital and went through 3 more operations. But it's during that period of time, and I have to tell you this, it was when I was just in Da Nang before I flew over to Tokyo, just out of the field, with an IV running into my body and morphine drip to take the pain away. All those questions that we have in our lives about, why me? Now what? Where am I going to go? I had something. You took it away from me. Where's my future? Came rushing through my head. And across from me was a young soldier. He was a triple amputee, lost his left arm and both legs. And every day that I was there, at least for that short period of time, the aides would come and take him to therapy. Oh, and he'd grab that little trapeze that swung over his best possibly he could, swing his torso into the wheelchair, and they'd push him out. But he made sure that before he left, every day he'd stop at each bed in the ward. It wasn't a big ward. And he'd stop on my bed, and he'd say, hey, how you doing today? You know, you look better today than you did yesterday, because let me tell you in all honesty, yesterday, you look like shit. Okay, now we got some good docs here. They're gonna take care of you, and don't worry about it, you know. We'll get you out of here, and I'll see you back in the real world one of these days. And I thought, wow, I mean, if anybody could really be embittered with their lot in life, would be that young soldier having to live with those atrocities that we've seen every day for the rest of his life. But yet he chose to make a positive impact. Yet he chose to have a positive attitude. And I thought, wow, if he could do that, what about me? I'm going to walk someday. And it changed how I thought or viewed myself. And I got to Tokyo, as I had made mention. And one of my burning thoughts in my life at that time was, you know, the injuries that I had, but I really wanted to come back and play football. I mean, that was my identity and something that I attached to. And I finally got enough courage to be able to ask my physician, what do you think, doc? Now, his response to that question was something like this. Don't worry about it. You're going to have a normal life. You're going to be able to do the things that normal people do. Just don't expect to get back in the gridiron, because of the fact you just won't have the strength nor the flexibility to do the things that are necessary to be a running back in the NFL. For you see, what he had formulated from his point of view, right or not, in his diagnosis, was a perception about my ability. And as my authority figure, he just sucked that hope right out. It's an impact that we have on people every day. Positive, negative. A couple days later, unbeknownst to me, I get a postcard in the mail. A simple postcard. It's got 2 lines on it. It said this: Rock, team's not doing well. We need you. Art Rooney, owner of the team. Wow. Somebody needed me. Oh, they didn't need me. No, somebody took the time to care, to reach out. And being the family that they are, when I got out of the service, they gave me a job. I went back. They put me in injured reserve. I had another operation that year. Came back the following year, made the developmental squad, as they called it, a taxi squad way back when. But they bought me 2 years. They bought me 2 years to get bigger, stronger. They bought me 2 years of an opportunity. They bought me 2 years to be able to do something. And so in 1972, I come back a little bigger, a little stronger. I have to tell you this, leading ground gainer during the exhibition season. Thank you very much. Got to make the team. Never carried the ball during the regular season, but hey, it's better than the year before. And then all of a sudden, things started to turn, at least from Steeler history. For the first time in 40 years, we win the division. We get into the playoffs, and it was during the playoffs, boils down to one play that changes the course and direction of that team, goes down in the annals as one of the all-time great comebacks, especially in Steeler history, as the immaculate reception, the deflected ball against the Oakland Raiders in the last 28 seconds of the game. Franco Harris scoops it off of his shoestrings, goes 55 yards down the sidelines, and scores. And we win. And it was like the football gods finally smiled upon us, and things changed. And I came back in 73, bigger, stronger, leading ground gainer again. Thank you very much. Got to carry the ball once during that season, but things started to change for me, and I have to tell you this, in 1973. What changed for me, again, was a perception, and the change for me was my own perception. What I felt was that in 1974, the following year, that the starting running backs were already predetermined, the backups were already predetermined. I was not amongst that group. And I didn't think it was fair. Oh, not that I didn't deserve to be on that team. What I didn't think was fair was the starting running back who was going to be given the job in 1974 was on injured reserve in 1973. He wasn't the leading ground gainer during the exhibition season. He even carried the ball once, but he was going to be given the job on potential. And I didn't think it was fair. And at the end of that season, I left the team. Now, you have to understand, my rationale is I did not quit, okay? Why? Because we're not taught to quit in our society. I mean, our families, our society, our teachers, our coaches, nobody teaches you to quit. No, but we're taught to analyze, to rationalize, to repress. Oh, what's happening over here? Geez, I don't know. What does it mean? Oh, I don't know. That means I'm not going to be able to play much next year. Well, what do you think? Yeah, no, I just think that maybe it's a sign, because we're big on signs. Maybe it's just, I mean, you did come back, okay? You made the team. You got your 5 years in toward your pension. You didn't quit. I mean, the deal was just that, wasn't it? I mean, you did make the team, and you did get a chance to play. Maybe it's time that I go on with the rest of my life. We do that. Make sure you read the fine print of any contract. In the NFL, it's applied that sometime in your career you must sell life insurance, or at least back then. And so I was doing that in Chicago, working for an agency, when I got a phone call from a teammate of mine. He's coming to Chicago, big sports dinner. And I tell you this in context, big sports dinner, why don't you join us? I hadn't seen you since the end of the season. I'm not going back. Why? Because I decided to quit, to not go back. I declined, he pushed, I declined some more, he pushed some more. Then he asked me the question, why? And we never really deal with whys in our lives. It's very difficult to deal with whys. We like to repress things. And so the only thing I could blurt out at the time was, I quit. I'm not going back. And he said, well, you can't quit. He said, if you quit, what you've already done is you've already made a decision for that coaching staff. He said, now, do you like them well enough to make decisions for them? He said, no, your responsibility is, if this is what you want to do, you come back and you make them make a decision. You back them in the corner. You give them every reason to keep you or release you. But you don't cut yourself. I mean, the reality of this game is that we're all expendable. The reality of this game is we all can be cut at any time. But if this is what you want, you don't cut yourself. Maybe just the arm twisting I needed, I went back. Everything that I had perceived, did take place. I had to fight with every free agent, draft choice, and rookie once again to make the team. Leading ground gainer during the exhibition season. Thank you very much. Now, I tell you that in context only because of the fact. The reason I was the leading ground gainer during the exhibition season wasn't because of the fact that I was bigger, faster, or better than the other ball players. It was the simple fact that I played more than anybody else during that period of time. I carried the ball more than anybody else during that period of time. Given those two simple statistics, I better be the leading ground gainer during that period of time because all they were providing for me was an opportunity to be able to make this team. And I made the team. I was the 5th running back out of 4 at the beginning of that season. Back playing special teams once again. When unbeknownst to us, Franco Harris, our starting fullback, gets hurt. The backup becomes the starter. I become the backup to the backup. Now, I had not been there before. So with renewed vigor, that 2nd game, 3rd game, 4th game, I played. Right before the half in that 4th game, the backup got hurt. I'm inserted in the game at fullback, along with my running mate, a guy by the name of Preston Pearson. Finished his career with the Dallas Cowboys. But Preston breaks one, 43 yards down the sidelines. He scores right before we go in the half. And at halftime, we go over Simon's adjustments. Who's going to start the second half? I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe those guys that got you the lead in the first half. And so Preston and I get to start the second half. And as a team, we win the game. Following week, Preston and I start. Everyone's still banged up. And as a team, we win that game. The week thereafter, it's a Monday night game, an extra day of healing. Franco now becomes healthy. Damn. That's okay. At least I got a chance to play, show, prove what I could do. We had our pregame meal. And after our pregame meal, we have our breakout groups. All the running backs get together. Coach comes over, gives us last-minute assignments, adjustments. He gives us the first 3 plays of the game, just in case Bradshaw should forget. So we can remind him of what they are. And he looks around the table and he says, Franco, you and Rock will start tonight. Whew. Momentarily, you have to understand. Momentarily. I was quite confused. I didn't know how we both could play the same position at the same time. When it finally dawned on me, I wasn't going to play the fullback position as I had been playing. I was going to play the other running back position. I wish they would have told me that. I'd been better prepared. But we get to start that game. And as a team, we win that game. So we get to start the following week. And we win that game. And we start the remaining part of that season, Bradshaw and Franco and myself, and we win the division and we go to the playoffs, and we win the playoffs. We go to the Super Bowl, and we win the Super Bowl. And we play 6 more years together, and we win 3 more Super Bowls. And in 1976, both Franco and I became the 2nd set of running backs in the history of the NFL, each to gain 1,000 yards rushing in one season. And after 12 years, I retire. Now, I tell you that story in context because of the fact that no matter how hard we try, how determined we may be, how passionate we are about the VA, about what we do, the commitments that we make, there are times in our lives, in our careers, that we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. There are times when we hit our head against the wall. There are times when we question what we're doing. The grass looks greener on the other side. We want to quit, move on, chuck it. Life's too short. Well, I guess the moral of the story is that if I would have quit all those many years ago, I'd never had the opportunity to play those 12 years or those 4 Super Bowls or have all those memories. But the reason I got a chance to play wasn't because of my size, height, weight, or speed, things I do not possess, but ultimately because of one talent. For what we have to understand within our organizations is that we all possess a talent that is ours, and no one can take that talent away. It makes us who we are. We have strengths, we have weaknesses, and in an organizational structure, we have to be able to determine what they may be. And a lot of times living in a society which is trying to get the most out of people in a shorter period of time, we don't have time to be able to try to change people. So define strengths and what they may be, work around those weaknesses we possibly can. So at that pregame meal or prior to that pregame meal, unbeknownst to me, Chuck Noll went up to our backfield coach and said, listen, you have a weakness in your backfield. Who is your best blocker? He said, Bleier. He said, then start him. One talent. And all of a sudden, that fine line of one that connected my life came full circle. Much like the fine line of one that connects each and every one of our lives to where we are at this moment in time. If it wasn't for that one talent, I might never have had that opportunity. But then I got to thinking, well, if it wasn't for that one injury, I might not have had a chance to play. Or if it wasn't for Preston's one touchdown, we might have never played that second half. Or if it wasn't for that one phone call, I might not have come back. One postcard, one triple amputee, one terrific game against Dickie Weisgerber. It may never have happened at all. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the power that we have. The power to make a difference, power to make an impact, the power to change. Because as William Jennings Bryan said, destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. It's not a thing to be waited for, but it's a thing to be achieved in each and every one of our destinies, along with that of the VA. Lies right here in our own hands. We can become what we want to become. So in closing, I'd like to leave you the few words that have been with me for many, many years, and they go like this. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you cannot, you don't. If you like to win, think you can't. It's almost a cinch you won't. Life's battles won't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the one who wins is the one who thinks he can. And you're all winners out there. God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Rocky, on behalf of all of us here, we'd like to give you a VA pin that you can wear. I didn't say this earlier, but Rocky and I met in Pittsburgh, where he does work with veteran treatment courts. He is known in Pittsburgh for keeping veterans out of jail, for working with them and the VA to get the treatment they need. And the great success rate that we have there is largely due to people like Rocky who make a difference in the lives of veterans every single day. We're very proud of our veteran treatment courts and very proud of the one in Pittsburgh, which is outstanding. Did you want to?
Any questions, answers?
Yeah, any questions? Any questions for Rocky? Let me also introduce John Tobin, who's with us. John, if you don't mind,
please, unless you have to go back to work. Unless you have to go back to work. No, then, unless you want to go back to work, then, or otherwise.
No.
You know, and I was telling the secretary, I said, you know, God, this is so wonderful. You had yesterday off and then get a delay today, 3 hours before you come in. Is there a job available to work at the VA? I said, never. Does anybody have any questions? You know, usually, and I just, I'm going to demonstrate another lesson that I've learned in life. Because somehow in this part of a program, whenever I have the opportunity to do that, you know, as I look around, we have mature, responsible adults that are sitting here. That somehow when an outsider like myself comes in and says, well, ladies and gentlemen, are there any questions? Somehow in mass, and I do mean it, think about it, you revert back to being in the third grade. Second grade, fourth grade, one of those grades. For me, it was the third grade. I remember specifically, I was sitting in the back of the class and the good sister said, well, boys and girls, are there any questions? And I had a question, but I wasn't going to raise my hand because I knew she'd call on me. And when she'd call on me and I'd give her the question, I knew her response would be, well, that's a stupid question, Robert. You should know the answer to that, and embarrass me in front of everybody else. Because usually what happens is that no one will ask a question. And then on our way out, some one of you will come over and say, I didn't want to hold everybody else up. You know, I didn't want to be a disruption. What do you think about whatever it might be? So if you do that, I will break your leg. Anyway, so it's fair warning. I just want to say we have a platform to some degree here. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you for letting me relive my childhood, first of all. This question is both for you and for the secretary, actually. My name is Barbara, and I'm from McKees Rocks. With the popularity of the book and movie Concussion, how can the NFL, how can parents, how can the VA, how can all of us really get to the bottom of concussions? And it's just not football. I have a cheerleading daughter who fell and had a concussion. So it's very important that we all together can come up with an answer.
And you're
Can
right.
we do it?
Yeah, and you're right. And the biggest thing, in my opinion, about what has taken place within that arena or that space of concussion in the movie, and the movie was a crowning point of that, because everybody can now at least can take a look at the movie. The biggest thing from my point of view is an awareness factor. It's that we're talking about it. You bring the question up. You talk about it. So you talk about it with your kids. You talk about it within the family. You talk about it within our society. You talk about it within your units about this concussion. So my kids, should they play? But at least we're aware of it. So the coaching staff on all sports, and ultimately understanding that in cheerleading as well. Or that in the past it just shouldn't be something we shrug. Now we know. So at least I believe that equipment becomes better, the coaches become more informed, and so there's a baseline, or should be a baseline, in most secondary schools that there are about head traumas or head injuries or a concussion of that nature. So the biggest thing is just that, as we become more aware, more research will be taking place, and rather than getting arguments and pointing fingers of what should have happened or not, is that we are at a point today is that it is on the top of our list. In the VA, you deal with it all the time. People come in, especially our soldiers coming back, post-traumatic stress. NFL deals with it, and organized sports, deal with it So in my point of view, I think it's just that, is the fact that it's a part of a discussion and it's an awareness, and we do talk about it.
I would add that in April, we'll be having a brain trust here in Washington, D.C., where we're inviting everyone with interest in this area, including the NFL, the NCAA, and so forth. And one of the keys of what we're going to do is we're going to share knowledge, and as Rocky was intimating, get organized around the research program so that we're all not duplicating effort. And I'm hoping that through that we can get organized, play a leadership role in bringing people together and really advance the learning. Dr. Ann McKee in our Boston VA facility has been one of the leading researchers in this area. We have many other people at the VA who are providing pioneering research. So we hope to bring that together. That'll be in April. Anybody know the date? Scott, do you remember the date? I think it's 4th. April 4th, I think it is. Thank you.
Any other questions?
20th, sorry.
20th. And, you want one? Yes.
I do. First, I wanted to thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
I have two questions for you. First, in terms of following up on your theme of changing narratives, the VA has been beset by some negative press of late, but I think Secretary McDonald has confronted the challenges that the department is facing. From your perspective as a veteran and someone whose business interests or has business dealings with the VA, what specifically would you do to change the narrative? Because I think a lot of the good work that the department does not get seen in the press.
Well, and you're right. And so the point, I wouldn't do anything different than what the secretary's already doing. So that's my answer. And you can vote for me. I'm running for Congress. So no, no, is that we in Pittsburgh, and I do have to say, and so in Pittsburgh, We got a great VA health system in Pittsburgh. I mean, do people complain about wait time? Yeah, to some, but you know, in our vision, from Erie all the way down to Altoona to Pittsburgh, down to Clarksburg, West Virginia. I mean, it's in over eastern part of the state, but we've got a really top-notch VA system. So I don't hear a lot of complaints about that, you know, especially within, you know, our. So here, the other thing too is that, you know, I think one of the things that the secretary is doing is making people take ownership. You know, ownership of what you do, your work, you know, in where you are within a system. You know, because it's so easy when you have so many people at times. If you don't take ownership, you know, I can slide it. You know, I'm not gonna make a decision over here because, you know, you know, I don't want to be on the record of doing. So that happens, but that happens in big organizations all the time. So I don't have a specific to say, well, this needs to be done, because every area is, you know, is different. But I think that the recognition of change that needs to be placed and what those areas may be, you're working through those, and so that's very important.
Second question that I had, as a Pittsburgh native and on behalf of everybody here that is from Pittsburgh, are we going to win number 7 next season?
Of course we are. I don't want, you know. Yeah, I know. Okay, you Ravens fans, maybe your Skins fan, I mean, you might be saying no, but yeah, it's the inside scoop. It's already sealed. Okay. All right. We have the best picks so far in the draft, guaranteed to come our way. Whatever we need, secondary. That's what we need. So that's. But anyway.
I'm not a football fan, so I will thank you for your service.
Thank you.
My question for you is, you do a lot of work with veteran organizations outside of the VA as well from your website. It's kind of a two-pronged question. How do you make the decision which veteran organizations you're going to support? And do you think that we as a society need to do a better job of integrating the public and private sector partnerships that could be bridged with veteran organizations to better leverage the resources that are out there?
It's coming. And the second part of your question is are we doing a better job of, it's the awareness of having to do a better job. So if you talk about the veteran space, just anywhere, whether it be Washington, back in Pittsburgh, whether it be Philadelphia, is that a lot of people, you know, small communities, you know, want to do something for their veterans, and they have their organizations of raising money or what it might be. So what I look for is, okay, what's the impact of that organization to the veteran population in that area? So if I talk about Pittsburgh, are there hands-on? Are there programs? You know, what are they giving back, or what are they doing for the monies that they raise? You know, staying within their area, you know, of what it is. So in Pittsburgh specifically, and because it's what I know of, there is that is the biggest question. It's a question of this from a nonprofit organization, because now everybody's going, they're all hitting the nonprofits for funding of some nonprofits are going, we can't do this. We can help a good organization get started, but we can't sustain organization. So you're going to have to be able to sustain yourself. How can you best sustain yourself? So maybe there's a need to combine services with other organizations. There doesn't need to be 30 services provided. Maybe there needs to be 15. But if you join forces, you'll have a better impact within that within your community and taking care of that veteran. So that's that. I mean, basically, that's what I look at. Almost, you know, the VA can do so much, and they have great programs and so on. But there's also, hey, so you get a whole lot of, and you've heard this before. So you get a you get a lot of service people. You know, I mean, who are leaving the service, don't want anything to do with anything that's military. VA at all. So I'm not going to get my benefits. I'm not going to do this until there's a need, and then there's a distrust that sometimes it takes place. That's just natural attrition that happens. So there's agencies that have helped come in to help that space, that they will come and do that. So you look at an organization that says, okay, fine. If I'm raising money, where's that money going for? How does it impact the veteran population? And do they have the services that are needed in this regard, such as, is it housing? Is it job related? Is it helping to take care of VA needs, if somehow to get them into that system. So it's that kind of to have the people. One, you can have the intention, but also have the people and the bandwidth to be able to do that. So that's kind of what I look for in our organizations. Any other questions? Yeah.
Back in the early part of the 20th century, Douglas MacArthur, while he was a superintendent at West Point, talked about, he was one of the first guys to publicly comment on the importance of athletics as an enabler of success in another field of strife, i.e. combat. Rocky, you're one of the few guys in our country who have played at the highest levels of professional sports and also served in combat. Can you, for us, give us any insight as to how your military experience helped you later as an athlete, and vice versa, how your experience as an athlete helped make you a better soldier in combat?
Well, I think so if you look at my athletic part of that team orientation, started much earlier than my military. And so it was all about individuals working as a team, whether it be basketball, football, coming together, or even in the neighborhood. There's such as pickup games, and how many we've lived in a neighborhood, and so it's a matter of organization. So you call this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and you got 5 guys or 6 guys, and so you're going to go play baseball, and then you got to make rules. So the rules are okay, fine. So it's a matter of you learn how to lead to some degree, how to be able to play together, what that is, and so there's a team. Part of that is also that community of being together. So within a team, you're all in the same locker room, and you're all in the same neighborhood. You all go to the same school, then you all go to the same school, then you all go to the same team. So you live in Pittsburgh, and so you see all those guys every day on a daily basis. Some come and go, but their backgrounds, their families, and so on and so on. So all that becomes very important. So I say that only because my experience in the military was in Vietnam back in 1968, and so that Vietnam vet, was a replacement soldier. You didn't go over as you do today with a unit, I was the first new man in country or attached to my company in 3.5 months. So, you get to know somebody by their first name, where they're maybe where they're from, or they have a nickname, and that's all you know. And so you're in a squad, platoon, you try to learn what you need to do, but there isn't that culture that you would breed within a team over a period of time. I'm not saying that. But playing with the team obviously helped me, adjust to the culture of being able to work together and understanding those rules. Some guys who didn't have that experience, you can't be a loner in the military and try to, not have an impact on one another. And I didn't turn out to be very good leaders within that guy. And so it just kind of separated that unit, whether it be that squad or platoon, but mostly your squad, because it was a smaller unit. So, so that transition, for me, I at least understood it. And so I think it was a great combine. We went through basic training, and it's the kind of the same way. You get to know somebody, but not for that long, because there's only 6 weeks that you're together, and your only focus is getting through. All I want to do is get through, and I want to get through basic training. That's all, because I got a sergeant that's screaming at me, and I got to get up in the morning. I got to do this and do this. I don't have time for your own personal problems, So so that was the biggest difference for me, that environment of not being together for a period of time.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Hello.
thank you.
Hi.
Oh, there you are. Hey.
How are you?
I'm fine. How was it up there?
Oh, it's great.
Was it nice? It's nice. I couldn't see you up there, you know.
I have a question to follow up on something that you mentioned earlier. We have typically veterans that, unfortunately, nowadays, when you perceive a veteran, it's the high and tight, the honey bun, the younger cohorts. But the question that I have for you is, through your work, how are you able to bridge the gap between the different service eras? Sometimes, when we think of a veteran, we have a more modern view of what that is, and their transitional process is different, unlike some other service areas. So my question is, how do you bridge that gap?
Well, I mean, I'm coming from, I'm coming from a 70-year-old, okay? So it's like, when I talk to sometimes, an OIF vet or an OEF vet, he's a younger guy, and, so it's like, Dad, and how you talk to your dad, and so that you don't have a relationship. So it is for me. It's just it's the commonality of having that experience, and listen. For me, it's the ability to listen to them, knowing that I had been there. They understand that. We don't have to be of the same, same time frame, but at least if you've served, you've served. I don't care when or what, so there's a commonality there. If you played sports, there's a commonality there, and so you can talk about that commonality to some degree, and so there's more of a trust that can take place, and they may listen, or may not, but at least there is somewhat of a bond. And my biggest thing is when I do, I just let them talk, and let them talk, because they'll tell you a story, they'll tell you this, and they'll tell you that. And you come from, a position of authority, only as an older person, and so you just nod your head. I have no answer, but you just nod your head and smile, and they go, oh yeah, you're right on. So they usually come up with their own answer, or conclusion to what needs to be done, and then hopefully you can guide them in a direction. I know that didn't answer your question, but as I told you, I'm running for office, so that was my...
Actually, for your peers, how do you relate to them? They didn't have a place that they could so-called come to for help, and for those that distress the VA, who feel like, well, I don't know what resources are out there, how do you reach out to your fellow Vietnam peers as far as what's available?
Oh, yeah, so, usually in that case, in our case in Pittsburgh, I will send them to one of the agencies that one of the agencies that I'm involved in or work with that I know have caseworkers, So the best that I can do is, I can talk to them and say, okay, fine, what do you need here? Anybody wants, I think, they just want somebody to take care of their need, whatever that need might be. And so you go, okay, fine. Here's an organization that I really think will help you, and here's a caseworker that will help you. It's not necessarily a VA, but they will get you to where you need to be. And most people just want somebody to listen and then tell me what to do. Right. Yeah, and so that's my way out. That's why I get involved in these find out the best organizations that are available. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Bleier, thank you for being here, and thank you for your service and your advocacy. I had a actually football-related question. Steelers season ticket holder for my whole life. Been in the family since 1969. So my father's very jealous of me being here today and having the opportunity to speak with you. I was just curious as to who was or were your best friends on the teams of the 70s, and how often do you guys still get together?
Well, there's a core of guys from that team in the 70s that still live in Pittsburgh. Where are we going? So I still see them. Mike Wagner, and a lot of times it's just, I'll have to tell you this. It's no different than an office environment. In all honesty, sometimes, you work in an office and you see one another, and does it mean that you're going to socialize with one another? You may not do that at all, or you may, depending on that relationship. So it depends on that relationship. In the game of, in football, so the social aspect of football is whatever your wife tells you that you're going to do, after the game. We're going out with so-and-so and so-and-so. Oh, okay, fine. We're going out with the Wagners, and we're going out with the Hams, we're going out with, Franco Harrison and Dana, and, oh, okay, fine. So that, in all honesty, it's like life. That's, so.
Hi, I just have a quick question. If you could travel back in time to your 9-year-old self, what would be one sentence of advice you would tell yourself?
Oh, I
Just
do that all
one.
the time, but now I can't come up with that. 9-year-old. You would think that I would have more wisdom. Yeah, there's I don't know, there is here, and I'll tell you this, okay, is that most of our lives, or most of my life, is that there's a lot of, there's a fear factor. There's a fear factor that we have, and the fear factor is a insecurity based. You're insecure with who maybe you are or how smart you might be, and and you compare yourself to other people at that time, and what I've come to learn, is that people are people. I mean, and I say this, people are people. People are people. President Obama is a person, okay? And he's got the same fears that we have, he's got the same concerns we have, he's got the same joys, and he just happens to be in a position of being a president, okay? But a lot of times we put people, and it just, and we put people on pedestals. We make something more out of them than we do. And we do it with entertainers, we do it with sports personalities, and we put them on, we put them because we all look up to them or whatever insecurity that we have. And so I tell, if I would tell myself is, no, don't be insecure. You are, and not brave, you are a person. And you're as good as anybody out there, and you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it. That I would say that to myself over and over and over again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Bleier. And thank you for bringing Pittsburgh weather with you.
Actually, actually, it was beautiful in Pittsburgh until we came down here last night.
Another comment, I'm a Catholic school education survivor, so I can relate to your comments. The Sisters of Mercy were not merciful for us.
That's right.
My question is this. My father graduated from St. Vincent's. And as we were growing up, we would go up to St. Vincent's for Steeler Letterman Day. And we got to watch the players practice, and after that, we would come down on the field and mingle with everybody. My question is, could you explain to the folks here who didn't grow up as Pittsburgh fans the role that St. Vincent plays for the Steeler organization?
That's right. So St. Vincent's is where the training camp is, and it's outside of Pittsburgh, about 30 miles or so. And so they had moved their training camp around, and it was in West Virginia for a while, it was out in Rhode Island for a while, St. Bonaventure's, but then it moved to St. Vincent's, 50 years ago, I guess. I think it's their anniversary. And so St. Vincent's is... It was a small practice field. I remember. So it was a small practice field we had, and a locker room off to the right-hand side, and and so you could sit on the hillside. It was just hit on the hillside, and at that time, so for the not in 68 or 69 or 70 or even 71, but 72, by 72, 73, and 74, and you start to win, and people became excited. Well, it kind of became a mecca for the fans, and they would come to St. Vincent's to watch practice. And like any baseball fans, you ever go to spring training and see, it's like you're there. It's not like being in the you're on the side, you're sitting in the seat, and the players are right there. Well, this is the same way, to the extent that This was all before NFL and word is today, and is that they could be on the field. We'd walk in, they'd have one little rope, but as we go off, people were there, shake hands, sign autographs, take pictures, on our way up, come back in the afternoon. So there's this interaction that they had with players. Really, and it became very important later on because there was a bond. It was a bond because you say, hey, yeah, I got my picture with so-and-so and so-and-so, and I could touch him, I could talk to him, and I got this autograph. It's not like that today. Now there's a distance, now it's roped off, no matter where you may go. So that personal interaction becomes much more difficult in today's, and so because of it, I don't think that the fan base has that intimacy as they had at one time, and so that was a part of, so it's kind of, so I hear stories like that, or grandparents now come up with their grandkids and they go, yes, when I was in college, we came up here and we'd watch the Steelers practice, and they'd bring their kids, and so that kind of a generation. But they had that impact, that you could be there, and thousands of people would come. So during those winning years, and it was really a great experience for us players as well as for the fans, I think. Yeah, very much so. Now we can do one of two things. I can keep you until you have to leave, or or you can go back to work. No, that's right. Oh, we'll sign. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So if anybody has anything to sign, I'd be happy to sign.
Rocky has generously offered to stay and sign anything that you would like him to sign. He's a great man. Please give another round of applause for a great American hero who we get to work with every single day. Great. Thank you. Thanks so much, Rocky. All those terrible towels, bring them up.